Hey, why don't we talk some Kentucky football? We got Kevin McGuffey on the line from Last Word on College Football. And of course, this is the voice of college football. So please subscribe and share the videos out there on social media once you enjoy the content, as of course you will, because we got Kevin here to talk Cats. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mark. Thanks for having me on again. It's always great to sit down and talk with you a little Kentucky football as we're getting ready. It's hard to believe that the spring football is almost upon us.
Spring football's upon us, but there's not going to be a spring game upon the Kentucky Blue.
Right. Yeah, the school announced that they're replacing the turf, the field, however you want to call it, at Kroger Field this spring. So as a result, Kentucky won't have an official spring game. This will be the third time in the last 4 years because of that. Like 2020 and 2021 obviously was because of COVID, and then 2022 was kind of back to normal. And then now they're working on the field, so they're not going to have a game. But they've said we're going to do something, some kind of fan day, some kind of something where everybody can come in that wants to, maybe at the Notre Center or something, and do it that way. But a couple of people had posted they should play it at like Georgetown College, which is just up the road from here, or go down to EKU or something like 20 miles. If they really wanted to, there's probably a way they could have done it. But anyway, there won't be a de facto spring game this year. So that's a little bit of a disappointment, but I understand, got to put in the new field. So that's what they're going with. So.
All right. Well, at the same time that one Will Levis is going to be preparing for the NFL draft, going through the combines and everything else, Kentucky's going to be breaking in its new quarterback. And fortunately, courtesy of the transfer portal, it's going to be a pretty known commodity coming in from NC State and Devin Leary, who threw 62 touchdown passes there in the ACC. So it may not be to the Will Levis level quite, but it certainly could be within that range. And there's certainly a capable signal caller, one that you would argue to be top 10 to 20 in the nation, that's going to be heading up the offense.
Right. Absolutely. I don't remember the website. I saw something posted as we're speaking today that had listed the top 10 returning quarterbacks for 2023. And Leary was on that list at number 10. And obviously for Kentucky fans, we're hoping that it'll be more of a return to form of 2021, where he threw, I think it was 35 touchdowns and like 5 interceptions, and was one of the finalists for the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award. I think Kenny Pickett from Pitt actually won that year. But, last year, if there's been a knock on Leary, it has been his health. He missed half the season due to a torn pectoral muscle. From all indications, we've heard that he should be good to go by the time spring practice starts here in a couple weeks. And we'll see, if he's going to be a full participant, what they're going to do. But you throw in a healthy Devin Leary, you bring Liam Cohen back from the ill-fated one year stint with the LA Rams. And let's be honest, a lot of the stuff that happened with the Rams wasn't his fault. I mean, you can't help Matthew Stafford, being injured for a lot of the year. But, you mentioned Levis, and you talk about what Levis did under Cohen in that 1 year. And then you throw in Wan'Dale Robinson, who had the greatest season ever by a receiver in Kentucky history. And I'm sure we're going to talk about this with all the guys Kentucky's coming back. It's going to be very exciting. We always talked about over the years the Kentucky score 17 points, and the Mark Stoops beat you with defense, but this could have the potential to be that team that scores 35 40 points a game, which as Kentucky fans we're not used to. But the potential is there to be a really, really exciting brand of football this fall.
So, Kevin, as you allude to, Devin Leary injury prone. I don't want to necessarily say that. He got injured last season. Then we got with Will Levis. Of course, he had to miss some time last year, and most notably the Mississippi State game. So if Kentucky has to go to a backup situation, who are the candidates there?
Well, right now, probably the leader in the clubhouse is Destin Wade. who is a 4-star player, highly touted player out of the Nashville area that came in last year as a freshman. Didn't play at all during the season, but got the start during the Music City Bowl against Iowa. And you know, kind of, I alluded to it in the piece I have out right now on Last Word. I'm doing a series of all the positions, and we started with quarterbacks. And going against Iowa, which I think was the 5th rated defense in the country, kind of getting thrown to the thrown to the wolves, so to speak. And he didn't, Wade didn't do that badly. He just, he had 2 bad passes that unfortunately that were intercepted and returned for touchdowns. So you take you take that away, and you're looking at like a 7-0 game as opposed to the 21-0 game. But he's probably your leader in the clubhouse. Behind him, you've got Kaya Sharon, who's sophomore out of Somerset, Kentucky. You mentioned the Mississippi State game. Those 2 games, South Carolina, were Levis missed. Sharon started that game against South Carolina. I thought did some pretty good things, threw for around 180 yards, I believe, and a couple of touchdowns. Kentucky lost that game, but I thought he played pretty well. I don't think he was the reason that they lost. And then behind him, you've got Deuce Hogan, the former Iowa transfer who started last year as the backup quarterback, but then was kind of quickly passed over in the pecking order by Sharon and Wade. So if something happens, I would say Wade is probably your guy, but it wouldn't surprise me maybe if Leary is not healthy to see them maybe go in, that second transfer portal, maybe go after somebody, a quarterback who may get beaten out, one of these other schools for a starting job. So that's something, way back in the back of your mind to think of. But yeah, so it's Leary, then you got Wade, Sharon, and then Hogan as your quarterbacks.
Got Kevin McGuffey here from Last Word on College Football to break down the Wildcats as they head to spring practice. We're going position by position through the offense. Want to remind everyone that we've got a Discord where you can talk college football all the time. Go to patreon.com, search Mark Rogers TV. You see it on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. Search Mark Rogers TV on Patreon. You sign up there, talk college football all the time. And there are other benefits as well. You can request additional content from me and others. All right, Kevin. Again, as you mentioned off the top, this has the makings of an explosive offense and extremely exciting with a veteran quarterback with a ton of options coming back from last season, a ton of productivity from some guys that can really light it up.
Absolutely. We just jump right into the wide receivers. Kentucky returns their top 5 pass catchers from last season, starting with Barry Brown, who was freshman All-American, another highly touted player from the Nashville area. Kentucky has made a big emphasis on that area as far as recruiting, and have won a lot of those battles recently. So he's going to be one of your top guys. Right behind him, Tavion Robinson, who came over last year as a transfer, did some pretty good things. Had some issues at the end of the season last year, but decided to come back for one more year. He's going to be, I look for a great season out of him. And then you throw in Dane Key as that third receiver, another local product here from Frederick Douglass High School. Kentucky, you and I have talked about this before. Kentucky's got a really good pipeline going. Frederick Douglass has become one of the top. It's a pretty new school here in Kentucky, here in Lexington, and Kentucky's got quite the pipeline going from Frederick Douglass into staying here playing for the Cats. Those three guys, you start with them, and I'd put those receivers up against just about anybody in the league. Then you throw in at tight end Jordan Dingle, who had 20 catches and 3 touchdowns last year. There's four pretty good guys right there. Then Juton McClain had 18 receptions at the running back position. So there you go. As I said, your top 5 pass catchers from last year are all coming back. And then you just, as I mentioned earlier, you think about the season that Wandale Robinson had 2 years ago, and then also Josh Ali had a really, really great year as well. So that Cohen-led offense, as you said, we might be hitting some uncharted territory here. You and I covering Kentucky football could have an offensive. I don't want to use the word powerhouse, but hopefully, like you said, it's not going to be the 14 to 13 games that we've seen in the past. But as long as those are the kind of games that Stoops likes, though. Those strong defensive games. But like I said, we'll see what happens. But like I said, the wide receiving room for Kentucky is, I think, one of the definitely should be in that top half, if not higher, in the SEC heading into 2023.
Yes, Mark Stoops going to get a little nervous with the ball in the air 30 times a game. I don't know. Well, yeah, for as much production is coming back at wide receiver, Kavosiey Smoke and Chris Rodriguez, of course, moving on to the NFL draft. So the bulk of the yardage and talent productivity missing from the running back room.
Right. Yeah, you think about I was reading something earlier before I came on with you. I think in the last 10 years, it's either 5 or 6 of the best offensive years by running back have come in this last decade. Because you think about, you go back to Boone Williams and you have Benny Snell, and then, follow that with Chris Rodriguez. And so, yeah, I mean, Rodriguez had the option of coming back, I think, for another year, but decided to see where it goes with the NFL. And then Kavosiey Smoke decided to leave. So Kentucky did what everyone does now, and goes to the transfer portal and picked up, I think, a guy who's going to fit in really well was Ray Davis from just down Interstate 65 at Vanderbilt, who ran for over 1,000 yards last year, was one of the stars in the game that Cat fans don't want to talk about, where Vandy broke that 25-game SEC losing streak coming into Lexington and winning. He ran for over 100 yards and just honestly kind of dominated the game. And so, so now got him on this side of the ball. And then he's probably, he's going to be your starter. But right behind him, you've got Lavelle Wright, you've got Juton McClain, you've got Ramon Jefferson, who came in last year from Sam Houston State, was supposed to be a guy to help, when Rodriguez missed the first 4 games last year. He did some really good things, tore his ACL. He's been granted another year of eligibility by the NCAA, so he's going to be back. And you throw in D. Beckwith and another guy, a freshman that they're really, really excited about is Jamarian Wilcox, who is out of came in. He's in Georgia. He chose Kentucky over. He had offers from Ohio State, Auburn. Auburn made a late run at him, but Kentucky was able to hold him off. He's a guy that the coaching staff thinks can do some really, really big things. I was just looking at his stats. Like at his senior year, he ran for 2,059 yards and 29 touchdowns, playing in Class 6A in Georgia, which I think is the highest level of high school. So, Kentucky's thinking he's a guy that could come in and maybe get some snaps from the get-go. Like I said, you got Davis, you got Wright, you got McClain. So, like I said, not to sound like the broken record, but it's all the pieces are there for a really strong offensive group. Now we just got to work on the offensive line, because anybody that watched the offensive line, any Kentucky game for any portion of time, knew there were struggles with the offensive line, which is very un-Kentucky-like over the last few years. So,
yeah, it's un-Kentucky-like, and you want to keep Devin Leary healthy. You need to run some fairly complicated and long-distance pass routes, which require the offensive line to hold up to get those guys downfield where they can do some damage. And, of course, the running backs, when you lose your 2 best and you're relying on younger guys, although you do bring in, of course, Ray Davis from Vandy and his experience, but it would be nice to give him a better line than what he had at Vandy, even though I see, as you mentioned, he tore it up against Kentucky, only 4.5 yards per carry the rest of the season. So, yeah, Kentucky's got to get back to that big blue wall up front. And right. I see Tashawn Manning's gone, but other than that, what does it look like up front?
Yeah, Kentucky, again, hit the transfer portal. Picked up Tanner Bowles, who had been at Alabama. He was played significant time with them. He's a Kentucky native and decided to come back here. And they also picked up Marquez Cox out of Northern Illinois, who was one of the highest rated players by Pro Football Focus, the college football version of that. He got injured actually against Kentucky last year and missed a portion of the season, but he's back and should be healthy. And so you've got those two guys automatically. I think your offensive line gets exponentially better just by bringing those two guys in, because especially like somebody like Bowles, he's not just a guy who sat on the bench behind like 12 other 5-stars at Alabama. He actually played and did some good things while he was there. And so, but like I said, he decided to come back to Kentucky, and obviously the Cats are thrilled to have him. So, and then you throw in, you've got Jagger Burton, Eli Cox, some of that nucleus from last year. And I think, like I said, obviously the offensive line is going to be something to watch. But if I'm Leary, I'm feeling a whole lot better about things right now with this version of the Big Blue Wall. And then you never know, as we talked about with the quarterbacks earlier, you could find somebody who gets loses out on the starting job at one of these other schools, and decides, hey, let's come to Kentucky, because if you look at their history, the last few years, Kentucky's had a great success with their offensive lines and putting offensive linemen in the NFL. So, as Stoops likes to say all the time, why not Kentucky? So,
why not Kentucky? Yes, I may not be predicting them to win the SEC East this year as I did a few years ago, but I think that they have the pieces in place to do better than 7-6 from last season. Got Kevin McGuffey on the line from Last Word on College Football. Kevin, always appreciate you stopping by and breaking things down for us. Would love to have you back to talk defense.
Yes, absolutely. Be glad to do it anytime. Like I said, thanks for having me on, and always great to talk to you, and look forward to doing it again soon.